now it is that time on a Tuesday afternoon when we do our sex and relationships lot, and David Kavanagh, relationship expert, has joined me, and we often receive listener queries on this. And this week, a listener who wants to remain anonymous sent us this looking for help. She says, "Hi Ciara, I'm 40 and I've been single for 5 years, but I've met a lovely guy and I have been seeing him for about 9 months now. Things are getting serious, he's funny, he's kind, and we get on like a house on fire, but I don't think we're sexually compatible. We don't have sex as often as I'd like and it's not that amazing. It's been like that from the beginning, so I wonder if it doesn't bode well for things in that department. I know sex is not as important in later life, but I don't know if I want to say goodbye to it altogether if I stay with him. It seems stupid though to throw everything away over the one issue. Advice, please." David, over to you. Fix this.
Right. Well, I think it's sex is obviously a very important aspect of a happy, healthy relationship. If two individuals have decided that sex is not important to them, say because of their in their later years, if that's the case, then sex doesn't have to be a big issue. But in this case, this woman is clearly stating that she wants sex to be a priority in the relationship, and she'd like it to happen more often and it to be better. But what we don't hear is that she's made any attempts to tell her partner that there's an issue with this sexual compatibility thing.
So do you get from this that maybe she hasn't mentioned this, or
it looks like she hasn't? And
okay,
she kind of needs to, because I mean, he can't do anything about the sex frequency or about the sex experience with her unless he knows that there's a problem. Sure, he could be thinking he's the best lover ever, like.
Yeah.
We just don't have a clue.
And she does say, "I've been single for 5 years," which is probably a long time to be single, and maybe she wasn't happy with that. And she's now saying things are getting serious, and he's a lovely guy, and so he has loads of things she likes.
Exactly.
This one thing, is this a make or break? First of all, is this a make or break thing? If you don't fancy somebody, or you don't fancy them in bed, or they're not pushing your buttons in some way, is that a make or break for everybody, or no?
Not necessarily. No, I mean, I've worked with plenty of people where the sexual compatibility piece, whether it's the frequency or the type of sex or whatever, isn't a major part of their agenda for the relationship, and they're quite happy and quite satisfied because the friendship is there, they have really good companionship, they have enough shared interests, they're happy, they're comfortable. But for other people where, maybe again it could be an age thing in terms of where you are in life, basically. If you're only 40 years of age or 50 or 60, whatever the case may be, you might want sex to be a really important aspect of the relationship, and you might have a lot of passion, you might have a lot of energy for sex, so it's very important then that gets reciprocated, because if it's not reciprocated, that's where the problem is.
Someone has texted in and said, "I'm in this position too," and I think they're talking about you saying tell the person. They say, "But how do you do that without hurting someone's feelings?" It is a tricky conversation to navigate. "I don't think you're great in bed" is not something that most people will take well.
Not really, no, but that's not what you're going to be saying to somebody anyway.
What would you
place.
say?
Well, you could probably start off by looking at what do you like more of? What would you like more of in bed? And you ask your partner that, and if they say, "Well, no, I'm happy with everything is fine," which is probably not what you want to hear, then you say, "Well, God, yeah, because I've often wondered myself what I'd like more of." You ask yourself the question as part of the conversation.
I'm grinning at you now, Dave, because this is not really obvious. If you go, "What would you like in bed?" and they go, "Oh no, I'm great, everything's brilliant," and then you go, "Well, what I'd like," and they know fine well that you're building up to I'm miserable and you're crap.
But that's better than saying, "Well, actually, you're really, really, really bad in bed, so we need to change." So, I mean, it is about tact. It's about understanding your partner's sensibilities too.
What is sexual compatibility anyway? What is it? Like, is it how do you define? Is there a way of defining it, or is it just a feeling or something in your head?
Okay, so as somebody who works in the sex therapy kind of domain, sexual compatibility would be where two individuals feel that they are getting their sexual needs met in the relationship, that they're able to express their desires, wants, needs, feelings, frustrations, etc., and that's respected, if not necessarily reciprocated. That at least somebody understands them and understands that there's a particular type of sex or sexual activity that they would enjoy. That's absolutely fine, and that's good sexual compatibility. It also comes down to things like frequency. It comes down to things like whether or not you're adventurous, if somebody's quiet, if they're reserved or not, as the case may be. It's all these things, but it's a big thing, and it's different for everybody, I guess.
So what you say to this woman, she's 40, she's happy, she says he's lovely in every way, and to get on like a house on fire, you're saying to her, "Look, bring it up, see where that takes you, suggest to your partner that would you, I don't know, have more sex or slightly different sex or something like that, and then see what happens from there, really."
Well, look,
is it?
Yeah, but I mean, sexual education is also really important here. Sometimes people make the mistake of thinking that foreplay is 3 minutes in duration. I've worked with women where they imagine that a man should be responsive to their touch almost immediately. But as men age, that's not the case. Men take an awful lot longer to respond. Women get very frustrated and get disappointed with that because they have unrealistic
We don't know how
expectations.
old her partner is. He could
We
be
don't.
older than
It
her.
could be older,
So
could be we don't know. But the point is that after 40, things slow down considerably for the average male. You're talking 10, 15, 20, 25 minutes to get a response. So for a lot of women, that's like, oh, good God, because when you watch pornography, that's not what you see on the
no, it's
television.
not. And also, everyone brings their own insecurities
course
to
they do.
sex. So if your partner isn't springing into action because you've given him the glad eye across the
Yes.
room, you might start to feel hurt and rejected, and then you go,
And
oh, he doesn't
inadequate.
fancy me anymore,
Yes.
and all this jazz.
Yeah, exactly. And that means then that your sexual energy is going to drop at that point, and the way you caress him, the way you touch him, the way you kiss him might not be what he's looking for at all. It is about honesty and it's about openness, and these are two very difficult aspects of a happy, healthy sexual relationship.
Someone else has texted. He says, Ciara, I'm a former psychotherapist. I would be wondering why the woman has been single for 5 years, also considering whether she may have rushed into a new relationship and may be settling for something that doesn't really suit her. It's not the case that lots of people are single. I thought half of the people in their 30s were single.
Of course.
Well, I don't know. Anyway,
And
someone
there's
else.
nothing wrong with being single either.
No, there's not at all.
It's not a disease.
No, someone says, I've been married for 18 years, Ciara, and we have no compatibility in the bedroom. In fact, we have no sex. I got stonewalled every time I mentioned it. I have given up now and will have an affair if the opportunity arises. Is that what people do when they're sexually incompatible? They seek it elsewhere?
Possibly. I mean, I think it's very sad that we tolerate and completely zombie marriages, we call them. We have a legal structure in Ireland that kind of makes it very difficult for people to end relationships or end marriages, and that's very challenging because people, if somebody decides to say, no, I don't want to have sex with you ever again, now you're stuck. What do you do?
Thank you for that, David. We'll talk to you next week.